Welcome to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, where intelligent living is paired with signature style. I'm your host, Shannon Ables, and whether you're listening on your commute, exercising, working in the garden, or sitting down with a hot cup of tea or a café au lait, thank you for tuning in. Let's get started. Welcome to the 270th episode of the Simple Sophisticate. Today we're going to talk about life lessons learned with regards to making sure we apply them before it's too late. Now, this was inspired by a book I read last week, and I shared a quote from it on Instagram, and many of you asked, where did this quote come from? Where is this book that I can find it? And after I had finished reading it, I already knew I was going to turn this into a podcast episode, but the response to simply that quote solidified my decision. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. But before I get into those life lessons, this week's Petit Plaisir is a bit holiday themed. I actually have two Petit Plaisirs for you. One is a stocking stuffer, and the other is a way to connect during the holidays. So stay tuned as I'll talk about both of those at the end of today's episode. But let's get into today's topic. Today I'm sharing 9 life lessons to learn and apply before it's too late. I want to begin with a quote from the book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying by Bronnie Ware, that will set the tone for what we're going to talk about. Quote, "We have the choice to change our life, to be courageous and to live true to our heart, one that will see us die and live without regret." End quote. Dying, death, and loss has unwantingly been on my mind this past fall. Rest assured, today's episode will uplift, inspire, and remind. But the reason I share what has been occupying my mind these past few months is because I likely would not have picked up Bronnie Ware's new book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying, but I am very grateful that I did. Ware's entire book shares her experience working in the palliative care system in New South Wales, Australia, which sprung up from what was originally a blog post on her blog. Subsequently, after more than 3 million people viewed the post, it was thankfully turned into a book in which she shares the detailed 5 life lessons that those special individuals she had the opportunity to spend time with in their final days. Now, along the way, Ware shares her own journey of self-growth and discovery and how she has applied the lessons she has learned. So in many ways, it's a bit of a memoir, but also a book of inspiration as well. It is not lost on me that often the books we need find us when we need them, should we keep our mind and our eyes open. And after the loss of a special woman in my life who was very much akin to a grandmother, who, having lived a wonderful life of nearly 95 years, reminded me with each visit and time spent together the power of a happy heart, and after a cancer scare with one of my parents, they are now in full recovery, I'm happy to share, along with my beloved boys, my dogs, each in their double-digit years, it quickly becomes apparent, if it wasn't already unconsciously known, that life is short, precious, and up to each of us to make it something we are proud to have lived, shared, and experienced. While we will all make mistakes in our lives, that is the gift of being a human after all, we do not have to suffer needlessly if we are willing to open our minds to the stories and the life experiences of others that they have courageously shared. In the past 10 years, I have come to enjoy reading biographies and autobiographies to soak up as many life lessons as I can that I would have otherwise not known about. Julia Child is one of my favorite teachers, but there are so many, and I'll provide links to them on the show notes. Today, what I would like to share with you are 9 life lessons that caught my attention as I was reading Bronnie Ware's book. While her book focuses on 5 overarching regrets, interwoven amongst each are smaller, no less important lessons to understand and apply to our lives moving forward. As I was reading, I began to celebrate as I discovered that much of what is shared aligns with living a simply luxurious life. And especially if you've read the Simply Luxurious Life's second book, Living the Simply Luxurious Life, you will know that nearly all of these topics are explored in depth in the pages. I cannot fully understand the emotional strength that Bronnie exercised in each of her experience, as well and more importantly, the individuals who shared their stories in their final days. but I am determined to make sure their lessons are learned and applied forward as we go about our daily lives. Let's take a look at the list. Number 1, extend kindness and forgiveness to yourself as well as others. A quote from the book: "The bravery needed to change your life is easier to find when you are kind to yourself. Good things take time, so patience is also required." With regards to this quote, she, as I mentioned, is sharing her story and what she's grappling with in her own life as she is learning from these individuals and being present during a time of great suffering. And part of what she discovered is that she needed to forgive herself the mistakes she has made, that she would not let go of, that she would continually beat herself up about. And I think the important part that I shared at the beginning of this episode is that to recognize that we each are human. We will not be perfect. We will make mistakes along the way. And the goal is to learn from them, apply them forward, and to let go through forgiveness. You don't forget, but you forgive. And that forgiveness needs to extend to ourselves. We cannot fully step forward into that life we wish to live if we're hanging on like a rock, an anchor to the past. And so it's also important to note that it's not going to be easy to do this, but it needs to be a conscious choice. And so this idea of living consciously also plays in to being kind and forgiving. And this also needs to extend, as I just mentioned, to others, those that are willing to try to learn and grow, that we have relationships with, and to not hold over their heads past mistakes if they are aware of them and are choosing and trying to learn and grow as well. So I think this is definitely something that we can remember for ourselves, but also as we are trying to build and strengthen relationships with those in our lives. So that's number 1, extend kindness and forgiveness to ourselves as well as to others. 2, appreciate the daily journey. Find joy in the everyday. A quick quote from the book that just sums it up beautifully. Things fall into place when happiness is already found. It's a shift in perspective, something we talk about a lot on this podcast and on the blog. The idea of focusing on what we want to happen and not dwelling on what we are worried will happen. The idea of being present in our everyday lives and finding those little things that are going well. So much is. It doesn't have to be that extraordinary to have an amazing moment in a day. I think that you listeners of the podcast and readers of the blog are well practiced in this. You share it with me often in your comments on the blog and on social media outlets. That when we start doing this, our lives are immediately elevated and more joy is experienced. And that joy doesn't come from having everything we should have. It's about observing everything that is. And that doesn't have to be things. That's going to be what's going well. A beautiful sunrise, the ability to have a car that runs, food in the fridge to make your favorite comfort meal, a house to share your home with those you love. Those are big and small things, but hey, a great cup of tea in the morning. I'm sitting here in my office this morning and my dog is healthy and looking at me going, what are you doing so early in the morning with headphones on your head? But he's looking at me, he's alive and he's there, and I love you, Oscar. So number 2, appreciate the daily journey. Find joy in the everyday. That was perfect timing. Norman just told me he was ready to get out of bed, so I had to go tend to him. So now back to this list. Number 3, let go of the need for validation and share yourself with the world. The number 1 most common regret of the 5 was the wish that they had been true to themselves. Here's a quote from the book. Taking risks requires courage, but we cannot control everything. Learning and daring to think without limitations and not trying to control how things will flow to us. End quote. These are hard. This is hard. It seems simple. Be yourself. Well, okay, what is that? A lot of people say. And we've talked about this a lot on this show and in the book and on the blog. And it's a journey. And it's a dynamic journey that never stops. And that's the beautiful part about it. I'll include a handful of posts you might be interested in on this topic. But this point I think is so important that I'm actually going to dive a little bit deeper into it in point number 9. So stay tuned for that. But it does require taking risks. And some of those risks are exploring things that you would have never thought you would have explored. And maybe nobody knows why you're trying to explore these things. You just have to go at it on your own. And that's sometimes very hard for a lot of people. And when you start making those small steps of change, those small acts of courage, the bigger steps of courage become easier. And I think that's another thing to keep in mind. Just be patient with yourself and start with small steps, small changes. And you'll be surprised what in a year's time, 5 years' time, 10 years' time, your life begins to look like as you've started to incorporate that practice into your life on the journey of becoming and embodying who you truly are. So that's number 3. Let go of the need for validation. And when I say validation, I mean from society, from anyone outside of yourself, and share yourself with the world. Number 4, simplify to untrap yourself. And I've put untrap in quotation marks because ultimately we're talking about to liberate yourself. She uses the term trappings in her book. And I appreciate this because decisions we make sometimes do become traps for us. And we ensnare ourselves by ourselves without anyone else's help. Here's a quote from the book. The things we often think we need are sometimes the things that keep us trapped in an unfulfilled life. Simplicity is the key to changing this. Letting go of the need for validation through ownership or the expectations of others also brings freedom. This is going to be unique to every single one of us. And so this is where I cannot be super specific on what you need to do to untrap yourself. This is part of getting to know yourself and understanding why you're either content or not content. For some of us, what we have, we need. We may live in a place where we need a vehicle to get where we need to go to work because we live out in the country. We live in a community that doesn't have transportation. So to talk about things we have to have. We may need to have other things that other people may not need, but they think they have to have them to look like they have lived or are living a good life. It's that comparison syndrome. This insecurity is what it is revealed about us when we are trapped in an idea of what we should be doing. And in episode 236, we talk about the word should being the word that we need to remove from our vocabulary for stronger relationships with others, but also with ourselves. And it's this idea of observing what we're doing that we think we should be doing that ultimately is trapping us. So just something to keep in mind when it comes to why are you discontent? Why are you uncomfortable with the life you're living? Well, maybe these are things that you don't have to do that are that hard. You just have to change decisions you're making on how you go about living your life. You'll realize, oh my gosh, I can easily change this by saying no to this person or no to that responsibility. And that's a mind shift. It's going to require a mind shift. So that's number 4. Simplify to untrap yourself. Now, before I get to the remaining 5 items on this list of life lessons, I'd like to introduce you to today's sponsor. I'll be right back. Away. Away creates thoughtful products built for the way modern travelers see the world. They started with the perfect suitcase, and now they offer a range of essentials, all of which will make your travels more seamless. Whoever said it's all about the journey has never traveled during the holidays. It's the most stressful, craziest time to hit the road, but Away's products are designed to work and fit together, making travel smoother for the holidays and beyond. The key with any successful holiday excursion or getaway is knowing you can relax, knowing that you have everything you need, and knowing that it's easy to take it with you. I think that's what's important, so that you can be present at the location with the people that you want to see, doing the things you want to do. And when you have a piece of luggage that comes with you and does what you need it to do without being super heavy and actually helps you, improves the quality of the travel experience, then that's a piece of luggage to welcome into your life. Everyone has a unique travel style, which is why Away offers a range of suitcases made of different materials. So for whoever you are or whatever you need to pack, gifts, comfy clothes, travel treats, Away has luggage that works for how you travel. Every suitcase comes with an interior organization system that includes a built-in compression pad to help you pack more in, and a hidden and removable laundry bag that separates your dirty clothes. If you're traveling in the air, good news, Away has TSA-approved combination locks to keep your belongings safe. And even better, Away products are designed to last a lifetime. If any part of your suitcase breaks, Away's standout customer service team will arrange to have it fixed or replaced. And there's also a 100-day trial on everything Away makes. Take the product out on the road and live with it, travel with it, get lost with it for 100 days. And if you decide it's not for you, you can return any non-personalized item for a full refund during that period. No ifs, ands, or asterisks. And even better, Away offers free shipping and returns on any order within the contiguous US, Europe, Canada, and Australia. Now, as a Simple Sophisticate listener, you have the opportunity to travel with ease. Travel during the holidays is crazy, but getting away can make every trip a lot more seamless. Visit awaytravel.com/sophisticate to learn more. And if you're in the US, EU, UK, Canada, or Australia, order by 11/59 on December 15th for free ground shipping with guaranteed free delivery by December 20th. For additional last-minute holiday shipping details, check out their website, awaytravel.com/sophisticate. Again, visit awaytravel.com/sophisticate. And if you order by December 15th at 11:59, you will receive free ground shipping with guaranteed free delivery by December 20th. Again, awaytravel.com/sophisticate. It's the time of year when everyone is traveling or running around getting thoughtful gifts for the people you care about. Think about giving yourself the gift of an Audible membership. Now is the best time to do it with a special offer of 53% off your first 3 months. Access an unbeatable selection of audiobooks, including bestsellers, motivation, mysteries, thrillers, memoirs, and more. Right now, for a limited time, you can get 3 months of Audible for just $6.95 a month. That's more than half off the regular price. Give yourself the gift of listening. Simply go to audible.com/Simple Sophisticate. Right now, for a limited time, you can get 3 months of Audible for just $6.95 a month. That's more than half off the regular price. And you can receive 1 Audible book and 2 Audible originals absolutely free. Visit audible.com/Simple Sophisticate or text Simple Sophisticate to 500-500. Now, you may remember that on November 1st, the Simple Sophisticate's second book, Living the Simply Luxurious Life, Making Your Everydays Extraordinary and Discovering Your Best Self, is available on Audible. And now you can listen to it for free and subscribe and receive 3 months at a special discounted rate. Simply go to audible.com/Simple Sophisticate or text Simple Sophisticate to 500-500. That's $6.95 for 3 months, more than half off the regular price. Audible.com/Simple Sophisticate. Saving money on award-winning wine you're guaranteed to love has never been easier with First Leaf. Unlike other wine clubs that guess about your favorite wines, First Leaf uses your feedback and ratings to curate wine selections personalized to your unique tastes. First Leaf is so confident in the quality of their wine, they even have a 100% satisfaction guarantee. That means if you're not feeling a particular bottle of wine, First Leaf will cover it completely. I had the opportunity to receive a shipment from First Leaf Wine Club, and it is such a simple process. You simply take a wine quiz to assess your exact wine drinking preferences, from sweetness to wine styles to even how adventurous you are. And that's when they learn what you like. First Leaf then creates an introductory 6-pack of wine just for you, all just $29.95. Seriously, an introductory 6-pack of wine for $29.95. These wines normally go for at least $20 a piece. Now, when my bottles arrived, I tasted and rated them online. First Leaf took my ratings and selected unique wines based on my taste for my next shipment. In fact, First Leaf sends out more than 17,000 unique shipments of wine every month because everyone's tastes are different, as we know. I thoroughly enjoyed what I received and was introduced to new wineries from around the world. I specifically sought out California wines, French wines, and Italian wines. You can seek out old world wines. You can seek out wines from regions that you are curious about and want to learn more about, but maybe don't have access to where you are. I appreciate the options here. And even if they choose ones that you don't like, you can go in and tailor to find ones that you would truly be more curious to try. Now, as a Simple Sophisticate listener, you can sign up with my link and you'll get an exclusive introductory offer. Simply go to firstleaf.com/sophisticate and you'll receive 6 bottles of wine for only $29.95 plus free shipping. Again, go to firstleaf.com/sophisticate. That's 6 bottles of wine for only $29.95 plus free shipping. So why not give it a shot? Sante. As we get back into the 9 life lessons to learn and apply before it's too late, we're talking about inspiration from Bronnie Ware's book, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. Number 5 is to make the scary changes. Here's a quote from the book. Just as trappings were created over time, they can be undone over time. It is a delicate process of determination, bravery, and at times letting go. It is having the courage to stop unhealthy relationships in their tracks and say enough. It is treating yourself with respect and kindness, both of which we deserve. Everyone's scary change is going to be different. And I've talked about this a few times before, and I'll provide links to it on the show notes. But our fears can really tell us a lot about what we want. Fear is different than doubt. And I've talked about this in the book specifically in more detail. The idea of fear is you're fearful of not attaining what you want. And that's where you need to investigate. What is it that you want? That's going to tell you where you need to go. Doubt is when you have evidence that something won't work out because you've had experience in this particular arena or with this particular detailed experience that when things go this way, this is the outcome. But fear is based on an unknown. You don't know how it's going to work out, and that's why you're fearful. You hope it will, but you don't know how it will because you've never done it before. So examine your fears and differentiate between fear and doubt, and that will help you figure out what changes need to be made in your life. So that's number 5. Number 6, observe and become the master of your mind. Quote from the book that when I shared on Instagram last Sunday, readers responded and were curious about what this book was. This is also the quote that spoke to me most directly. It is the heart that guides us to joy, not the mind. Overcoming the mind and letting go of others' opinions allows us to hear our own heart. Having the courage to then follow it is where true happiness lies. In the meantime, keep cultivating the heart while mastering the mind. As the heart grows, life brings more joy and peace. A happy life wants us as much as we want it. So number 6 is all about mastering the mind. It's not about not using your mind. We need to be critical thinkers. And if ever anyone has said to you, stop overthinking something, whether you say this directly or not to them, what you need to make sure you're doing is being a good critical thinker. There is such a thing as working yourself into a tizzy, and that is not accepting where you have no more control and you just have to let the universe, unfold as it will. But we do need to be thinkers. We just don't want our mind to overwhelm us. We want to master our mind. Now, in episode 20 of this podcast, How to Be the Master of Your Mind, I break it all down. So I'll share that link on the show notes if you're interested. Number 7, be honest with yourself and get out of your own way. Quote from the book. My lessons had been in how to allow fulfillment and pleasure into my life, which was through faith and self-love. I just had to get out of my own way first. That was where the real work lay. Learning to own my own thoughts by clearing away the debris that stopped me from letting it all flow. This is going to, again, come back to the trappings. This is also going to come back to learning our mind and how it works and the thoughts we allow to dance around in it that are actually hindering our progress. What is it you're telling yourself about you, people in the world, how things will work out for you? What is it that is the track that is actually stopping you in your tracks? Unconsciously, there is something, if you feel stuck, that you have accepted as truth that in fact probably is not. There are a lot of ways that we get in our own way, but starting with being honest with ourselves is the first step to overcoming that. Number 8, smile at your humanness. Let go of perfectionism. If occasional blockages now surface, I am patient and loving with myself while working through them. Self-discovery is more joyful. I can smile at my humanness. The words of Bronnie Ware. This is part of, as she said, forgiveness. This is part of being forgiving with yourself, that you've made mistakes. You will make mistakes again, hopefully not the same ones, because you've learned from those previous ones. But you're never going to be perfect. And that's because you're continually learning and applying and doing new things and meeting new people. And the world is changing, not just you is changing, but the world around you is changing. And we're dancing with life. If we're fully alive, we're dancing with it. We're not sitting on the sidelines. And that's where the joy comes from, that self-discovery that she talks about. Excellence is something to strive for. Perfectionism is debilitating. And there is a significant difference between the two, and that's something we've talked about, and I will share a link to that on the show notes. Last but not least, number 9. As I mentioned in point number 3, I'm sharing number 9 as a bit of an overlap to number 3 because I think it's that important. Understanding being yourself will require great courage. Here's a quote from the book. It takes enormous courage sometimes, but being who we are, whoever that is, sometimes cannot even be articulated at first, even to ourselves. All we know is there is a yearning within that is not being fulfilled by the life we are currently living. End quote. We need to honor that feeling of not being fulfilled. That true understanding of not being fulfilled needs to come after we are clear about what we have let go because society has told us to feel this way or that way. So we first need to get through the shoulds and letting go of the validation. Anything we're doing because we want to be validated by the outside world. Once we get rid of all those and we're just looking at ourselves honestly, we can realize if we truly are fulfilled or not. I have said many times that the reason this blog started back in 2009 is because while I love teaching, something wasn't being fulfilled. There was something more that I wanted to give, to do, to explore. I didn't really know what it was. I didn't. I just stepped forward and started to explore. I did not know what I was going to step into or find or experience. There is no way I could have predicted all that has happened in the past 10 years. But I am so thankful that I had the courage to try. And it was not easy at times, and it still isn't easy at times, but it's different for different reasons that it's not easy. It's a progression in the right direction. And so when we are kind to ourselves, forgive ourselves, and accept that we're not going to know why we're unfulfilled, we just keep stepping forward and out of curiosity to figure it out, that's when the answers start coming. And that is where living, real, happy, contented living can be found. And that's when it becomes easier to savor those every days because we are living consciously. And I'm really thankful Brian Ware wrote this book. I'm going to end on that number 9. Understand being yourself will require great courage. And I know I'm kind of fumbling with this ending here, but I think it's the letting go of not knowing everything that's really hard. Not trying to control everything, even though it would be lovely. But I don't know if it really would be so lovely. But there's that. It's not a simple black and white conversation on that topic. So to live well requires courage. If you're curious about this book and want to learn more about any of the things we've discussed on this list, visit the show notes, thesimplyluxuriouslife.com/podcast 270. And I'm still processing this book, which is a compliment to this book. It's honest. It's worthwhile reading. But again, I think different books come at different times in our lives, and maybe you're not ready to dive into the idea of dying, and that's okay. I get it. I was resistant to that for a long time too, and I don't know if I really want to keep diving into this topic personally. But I'm glad that I did a little bit, and I wanted to turn it into a positive conversation, which she did. But I wanted to turn it into a positive. We don't have to make these mistakes, and this is the lessons we can learn moving forward. I want to thank you for tuning in today. I've included a handful of episodes and posts that you might enjoy on this topic with regards to contentment and life lessons and how to welcome the magic into your life. Those are all on the show notes as well. And I have 2 petit plaisirs for you, so I'll be right back with those. So this week's petit plaisirs are 2 that I have been enjoying the past week. If you were following me on Instagram over this past weekend, I was all into the jolly of the holiday festivities in my house. I really just dove into my home and decorated it a little bit more. My tree is not up yet. It will go up next weekend, and I'll explain why later as to why I'm waiting. But one thing that I was so happy that I did this year, for the first time, I customized my holiday cards. Now, I know many people have been doing this for years. This is not a woohoo brand new thing. But I finally just stepped into that this Thanksgiving. Prior to Thanksgiving, I think I ordered my cards. I customized them from Papier, P-A-P-I-E-R, and they're customizable stationery is available around the world, so not just here in the United States. And they had so many beautiful cards to choose from. They arrived in very short fashion. I think you could still get them before the holidays, even if you don't send out cards before the 25th. Maybe you want to send out one for the new year or for, there's all different reasons you want to customize cards. They arrived fairly quickly and they looked wonderful and were great quality paper. So I appreciate that. And they weren't that expensive. I received 20 cards for fewer than $30. So I was thankful for that price. And then the other thing that I would recommend is that if you are a fan of French candles, I recently took advantage of a Black Friday sale on Maison Balzac's French candles. And I have one scent that I love. It's called Bonne Nuit, and it has lavender in it. And I always like to have a lavender scented candle in my bedroom. But they have a handful of other candles that I was really curious about, but I didn't want to purchase the full big candle because I was worried I may not like it, or I wasn't worried I wouldn't like it, but I want to make sure I did before I bought the big candle. And so they have mini candles that are fewer than $30. And so I purchased a few of them, and I have one in my office, and I have one that I'm going to put in my guest room. And I'm just kind of trying these out, but I also think they'd be great stocking stuffers because they're beautiful candles. They're simple and white, and they have wonderful scents. One is called La Plage, so the beach. Another one is Le Matin, so the morning. So they have lovely scents, usually 3 different overarching notes that you can find. But if you're looking for either stocking stuffers or you're trying to explore different scents, this company was in my top 7 French candles that I would recommend that I shared this past August in the French week. And I highly recommend them. But again, they're an investment a bit. And so if you want to just get the minis to explore, it's a great idea. So 2 different holiday ideas there for the Petit Plaisir. I hope you've enjoyed this week's Petit Plaisir, where each week ideas are shared to make the everyday all the more enjoyable. Tune in at the end of each episode where I'll recommend a book, a film, a show, a recipe, anything that is a simple pleasure to satiate your sophisticated taste. And before I wrap up today, I wanted to share a review that was given by the listener in Canada, Nicole May. Oh, thank you very much for your 5-star review. She titles it, "Shannon's podcast is my petit plaisir." I found the Simple Sophisticate podcast approximately 2 years ago. After the first listen, I was hooked. Shannon shares her approachable tips for creating a simply luxurious life. She is realistic and understands that everyone's lifestyles vary. I have pulled much advice from her podcast and books, from making homemade croissants and pain au chocolat to choosing more classic items for my wardrobe. Still have a ways to go, but also taking a hard look at my personal finances and the gaps I have found. This podcast and her 2 books are truly my petit plaisir. Well, I want to say thank you, Nicole May, for taking the time to share a very specific review. I am tickled that you have found so many different ways to incorporate simply luxurious living into your life. Everyone's going to do it differently, as you said, and that is the beauty of living well. It is a journey. It is something that we can't just give everyone a roadmap. But that, I think, is Bronnie Ware, to bring it back to our topic today, is what makes the journey joyful. Because we're learning new things about ourselves. We're learning new things about the world. So anyway, thank you very, very much for your review. If you too are enjoying this podcast and would like to leave a review or just simply a ranking, by the way, I want to thank every single one of you for tuning in. Because guess what happened last week? In episode 269, with all the downloads that happened, because it was one of the top episodes of the year, this show ranked number 5 in the United States for self-improvement podcasts. That is all because of you. So thank you so much. When your reviews come in and they're positive and you download this show, that's what takes us up higher. So thank you very, very much. I will continue to read and share reviews because it is because of you that this show continues to be introduced to new listeners. I am so deeply appreciative. All right, I'll be back next week with a brand new episode. I hope you have a wonderful week as we enter into the middle of the holiday season. Bonne journée. Thank you for tuning in to the Simple Sophisticate podcast, where intelligent living is paired with signature style. For more ideas and inspiration throughout the week, visit the blog, thesimplyluxuriouslife.com, or pick up my latest book, Living the Simply Luxurious Life, Making Your Everydays Extraordinary and Discovering Your Best Self, now available on Audible and wherever audiobooks are sold, as well as in paperback and ebook versions. You can also pick up my first book, Choosing the Simply Luxurious Life, A Modern Woman's Ingredients Guide, which is also available in paperback, ebook, and as an audiobook as well. To stay caught up on the most recent episodes of the podcast, blog posts, the cooking show, and receive exclusive news as well as an extra dose of inspiration to jumpstart your weekend, subscribe to the Simply Luxurious Life's free weekly newsletter, which arrives in your inbox each Friday to enjoy with a hot cup of tea or cup of morning coffee. Until next Monday, I'm your host, Shannon Ables. Bonne journée!